this is Miss Diane from Finkelstein Memorial Library, and welcome Easter Drama Teens. Today we are going to not make the, as promised, bread pudding. Once again, I do not have quite enough bread, but we are going to use the buttermilk we made from last time to make buttermilk pancakes. So, I did not have enough buttermilk from last week's butter recipe, so we are going to be substituting some of the buttermilk with powdered buttermilk, which you can find at the grocery store and probably has not been rated. So this is a really good thing to have around because you can make muffins and cakes and all kinds of stuff with it, and it just sits in your fridge and it lasts for about a year. So you can get a lot of recipes out of it, and you don't need to have fresh buttermilk on hand, which is great. Okay, so let's get going. Now the recipe I'm using is the one right from the side of this can, but you can find tons of good buttermilk pancake recipes. Alrighty, so we're going to start with our dry ingredients. First and foremost, 1 cup of flour. Now we're going to add a half teaspoon of salt. We're going to add in 1 tablespoon of sugar. Okay, our buttermilk powder. Now this can be substituted 1 tablespoon for every 1/4 cup of buttermilk for your recipe. So since we already have a 1/2 cup from last week's butter experiment, I only need 2 tablespoons of this and another 1/2 cup of water that we're going to add in later. So if you have the buttermilk left over from last week, just 2 tablespoons, but if you're using all the powdered buttermilk, you're going to use 4 tablespoons. Alrighty. Now, left over here we have baking soda and baking powder. You're going to want to put it in 1 teaspoon of the baking powder and just a 1/2 teaspoon of the baking soda. They're there to make your pancakes fluffy. I get them mixed up too. Alrighty. Alright, so that's it for our dry ingredients. We're going to use a wire whisk to stir that around and distribute everything evenly. The recipe calls for sifting this. I never bother. This is so much faster. Okay, and we're good. Okay, so that leaves us with our wet ingredients. Alright, so we are going to add 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, our leftover 1/2 cup of buttermilk, and we're using just a 1/2 cup of water, but if we had used the entire recipe with the powdered buttermilk, you'd be using a full cup of water here. Great. Alright, so we're going to whisk that all together and we'll have our pancake batter. This mixes together really quickly, and you don't want to beat it until it's smooth. A few lumps are okay. Great. Okay, now we are going to let this rest for a moment. Letting your batter sit for a moment or two will allow your pancakes to become a little bit more fluffy as the baking soda, baking powder, and buttermilk work their magic and make it puff up a little bit and thicken your batter. Alright, so this recipe makes about 10 4-inch pancakes, So you can easily double the recipe if you need to, according to the box. All right, now let's go fire up the griddle. So we are going to cook up our pancakes now. If you don't have an electric griddle, a regular griddle will do. If you don't have a regular griddle like this, any old frying pan will do. All right, so I put some butter down, and we are going to wait until that is totally melted and a little bit bubbly. It looks like it is to me. One last test. If a little drop of water hisses, then your griddle is ready. It's perfect. All right, I usually give my batter, which has been resting all this time, one little quick stir. This batter is super, super thick. And then I just make silver dollars. And we're just going to pour them nice and gentle. Feel free to make turtles or other shapes. Okay. And we are going to let that sit until they start to bubble. Now, if you don't have a batter bowl that has a little pour spout, you can also use a soup ladle to get your batter on the griddle, and that will be fine too. And now we wait. I used butter on my griddle, but you don't have to. You can also use just a spray oil out of a can, and that's even easier. The butter just gives it a really nice flavor. Alright, so our pancakes are ready to flip now, and we can tell because they've bubbled up pretty nicely. We've got a couple little craters in there, and more importantly, you can see like around the edges, they are already starting to cook. So we're going to get our flipper underneath there and flip gently. Alrighty. They cook on the second side much shorter than on the first side. So don't walk away, keep an eye on them. And especially with silver dollars, the little tiny pancakes, these cook up super, super quick. Alright, let's see. These are already turning brown on the other side. So we're going to go ahead and put these over on our waiting plate. Okay, and then all we have left is to add our butter and syrup and enjoy.